You've been misled your whole life. From the time you were young, you were told that masturbation was something to be ashamed of, that it was dirty, immature, something you'd outgrow. And if you're over 60, maybe you've even come to believe that it no longer matters, that it's irrelevant to your health, your energy, your relationships, and your future. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, for men over 60, masturbation, when approached the right way, could be one of the most important tools for maintaining mental sharpness, emotional resilience, and physical health. This isn't just about sex. It's about survival, about longevity, about connection to yourself and to life. For more than 3 decades, I've worked closely with aging men, many of whom felt embarrassed to even bring up the subject. They carried a quiet guilt, a lifetime of shame and secrecy that robbed them of not just pleasure, but vitality. And in many cases, it wasn't illness that was stealing their health. It was neglect. It was silence. Because here's what no one ever told them. How you touch yourself, how often, how intentionally, and how consciously, plays a major role in everything from hormone regulation to cardiovascular health, from brain function to emotional intimacy. When done poorly or mindlessly, masturbation can actually contribute to erectile dysfunction, depression, and even prostate complications. But when done right, it can boost testosterone, ease stress, improve sleep, and keep the nervous system activated and alive. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 truths every man over 60 should know about masturbation, truths that might just shift how you live the next 10 years of your life. Let's begin with the one that most men never see coming. Secret 1. Mindless masturbation can lead to numbness and erectile dysfunction. Let's get honest for a second. Many older men masturbate the exact same way they did at 25. Same motion, same speed, same fantasy or screen. Quick, mechanical, and over in minutes. It's what they're used to. But what they don't realize is that this repetitive, tension-driven behavior creates a form of neurological conditioning that the body begins to depend on. And over time, it rewires the nervous system to respond only to that specific stimulus, and nothing else. I've had patients tell me, I can't feel much anymore. Or, I can't finish unless I do it exactly this one way. Others say, I feel like I've gone numb. This is not in their heads. It's physiological. When you train your brain over and over again to respond to fast, friction-heavy, disconnected stimulation, it begins to adapt. The reward pathways in your brain start demanding higher intensity and shorter feedback loops. Meanwhile, your arousal threshold increases, meaning it takes more stimulation to feel the same pleasure you once did. This is how men gradually fall into delayed ejaculation, anorgasmia, inability to climax, or porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Not because they're broken, but because their nervous system has adapted to a narrow version of pleasure. And the emotional effects? Equally damaging. When physical response drops off, many men withdraw from intimacy altogether. They lose confidence, avoid touch, and stop connecting. Not only with their partners, but with themselves. The solution isn't abstinence. It's retraining. You can rewire your body and your brain through slow, intentional, conscious self-touch, shifting from mechanical relief to mindful connection. By practicing with presence, using varied pressure, exploring breath and sensation, you begin to wake up those desensitized pathways and reawaken arousal in a way that's sustainable and real. Secret 2. Masturbation helps relieve prostate pressure and inflammation. Let's talk about your prostate, that walnut-sized gland tucked beneath your bladder that plays a vital role in male reproductive health. As men age, the prostate tends to enlarge. That's fairly common. But what's not talked about is that lack of ejaculation can increase prostate fluid buildup, leading to congestion, inflammation, and urinary issues. I've seen men in their 60s and 70s complain about frequent nighttime urination, pressure in the pelvic region, discomfort when sitting, and even dull aching near the groin. They think it's just aging. But more often than not, the issue is fluid retention in the prostate due to infrequent ejaculation. Your prostate continues producing seminal fluid even if you're not sexually active. When that fluid isn't released regularly, it begins to collect, and over time, can cause inflammation and tissue stress. Regular ejaculation, through masturbation or partnered sex, helps flush the prostate, reducing the risk of inflammation, pain, and potential infection. Even more compelling is a study from Harvard that followed nearly 30,000 men and found that frequent ejaculation, at least 21 times per month, was associated with a lower risk of prostate cancer. Let that sink. Self-pleasure isn't a luxury. For older men, it's preventative health care. And beyond that, it helps restore confidence, connection to self, and a healthier relationship with your body. One where you aren't just a passenger watching it age, but an active participant in keeping it alive. Secret 3. Shame around self-touch weakens. Your mental health. Most men don't realize that the guilt they carry around masturbation isn't even theirs. It's inherited. From culture, religion, family. They were taught that touching themselves was perverse, immature, dirty, and that past a certain age, it becomes ridiculous or inappropriate. So what do? They stop. Not because they want to, but because they feel they should. And here's what happens next. Without physical touch, without connection to their own body, men begin to lose contact with pleasure, desire, and in many cases, even emotional presence. Shame isn't just an emotion. It's a physiological state. It triggers cortisol, disrupts mood regulation, interrupts dopamine and oxytocin cycles, and can lead to chronic stress, sleep problems, and immune suppression. I've seen men who seemed physically healthy fall into deep depression, numb, disconnected, withdrawn, simply because they hadn't felt intimate connection with anyone or even themselves in years. One of them told me, "I don't even feel like I exist anymore." That's not a small thing. That's existential. But here's the truth. Your relationship with your body doesn't expire. Self-touch, done with awareness and care, is a form of grounding, a way to reconnect with pleasure, emotion, and being alive. You're not wrong for wanting to feel good. You're not broken for wanting to reconnect with yourself. You're human. Secret 4. Testosterone is stimulated through regular sexual energy. Let's crush another myth right now. Testosterone doesn't just drop because of age. It drops faster when you stop engaging with your sexuality. Your body is intelligent. It adapts to what you need. If you send it signals that you no longer desire or pursue pleasure, it starts dialing down the production of testosterone, libido, hormones, and vascular support. In other words, if you don't use it, you start to lose it. Not just physically, but chemically. That means less energy, more fat accumulation, mood drops, fatigue, brain fog, and reduced bone density. You become slower, more tired, less present. Not because of age, but because your body has been told there's nothing left to wake up for. Now here's the good news. Studies show that sexual stimulation, even solo, can increase testosterone production in the short and long term. It's a biological reward loop. When you engage with desire, your body ramps up to meet it. It remembers what aliveness feels like. And with regular attention, your hormonal levels begin to stabilize. It's not about chasing pleasure 24/7. It's about maintaining vitality through presence, touch, and intention. Secret 5. Erections are a use it or lose it system. Let's talk about erections, not as a symbol of masculinity or virility, but as a barometer of health. An erection is a vascular event. It depends on healthy blood vessels, smooth muscle function, nitric oxide release, and neurological signaling. If you're not getting erections, even occasional ones, it's a sign that your cardiovascular or nervous system may be slowing down. And here's the scary part. If you go too long without erections, the tissues inside the penis begin to atrophy. Smooth. Muscle degrades. Blood vessels become less elastic. Fibrous tissue replaces functional tissue. And eventually, the ability to achieve an erection naturally diminishes. This is why even men without partners should still aim for regular erections. To keep the system alive, it doesn't have to be sexual. It can be morning wood. It can be imagination. It can be touch. The point is, don't let this vital function fade away quietly. Secret 6. Porn may be hijacking your brain. Now let's get into something uncomfortable but real: pornography. Many older men turn to porn not out of obsession, but loneliness. It's available, predictable, and doesn't require vulnerability. But today's porn is not like what existed 30 years ago. It's fast, intense, and neurologically overwhelming. What happens is this. The brain begins to release massive amounts of dopamine in response to extreme visual stimuli. Over time, you become desensitized, needing more content, more novelty, more shock, just to feel the same level of arousal. This creates something called porn-induced erectile dysfunction, a condition where men can only perform when watching porn and struggle to respond to real-life touch. I'm not here to shame anyone, but if you've been feeling numb, needing more and more stimulation to feel anything, this might be the reason. The fix? Take a break. Even 30 days without porn can reset your brain's dopamine sensitivity and allow natural arousal to return. Secret 7. Isolation is the greatest threat to your health. Let me close with what I believe is the most serious issue facing men today: isolation. Not just physical isolation, emotional isolation, touch starvation. When men stop being touched or touching themselves, the body begins to shut down. Literally. Oxytocin drops, cortisol rises, depression sets in, immune function weakens, sleep gets worse, blood pressure climbs. And worst of all, they begin to believe it's just aging. It's not. It's abandonment. Not by others, but of the self. You were not meant to go through life untouched. You were not meant to lose connection with your own body, with pleasure, with sensation. When I see men come back from this, reintroducing self-touch not as habit, but as self-care, their eyes light up. Their energy returns. They walk taller. They speak louder. They begin to feel alive again. If you've made it this far, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not broken. You are not past your prime. You are not too old to matter. Every cell in your body is still responding to how you live, how you touch, how you think, and how you feel. And masturbation, when done consciously, respectfully, and with presence, can be the doorway back to vitality, connection, and self-trust. So here's your invitation. Start small, 10 minutes a day. No distractions, no screen, just you, your breath, your body. Explore without pressure. Stay with sensation. Let your nervous system relearn safety, pleasure, and presence. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about reclaiming your life. One touch, one breath, one moment at a time.